The first light of dawn was just breaking over the Sea of Galilee, painting the eastern sky in hues of soft orange and rose. But for Simon Peter and his partners, there was no beauty in this new day, only the profound weight of exhaustion and the bitter taste of failure. All night they had toiled, their strong hands hauling in nets, only to find them empty time and again. The rhythmic splash of water as they rinsed the last remnants of algae and stray weeds from their barren nets echoed the emptiness in their hearts. They were fishermen, and their livelihood depended on the catch, but tonight the sea had yielded nothing. A night's effort, a night's hope, all dissolved into the morning mist. As they began the weary work of mending their nets on the shore, a murmur rippled through the gathering crowd. Jesus of Nazareth had arrived. The multitude pressed in around him, eager to hear his words, so much so that he needed a vantage point. His eyes fell upon Simon Peter's boat, beached near the water's edge. "Launch out a little from the land," Jesus requested, stepping into Peter's vessel. Peter, still weary from the night's fruitless labor, nodded and pushed off. From the slight distance of the boat, Jesus sat and continued to teach the eager crowd. Peter, perhaps, listened with one ear, the drone of the sermon a gentle background to his own internal monologue of frustration. He knew the waters, he knew the fish, and he knew a wasted night when he'd lived one. Then, after he had finished speaking, Jesus turned to Peter, his gaze gentle yet firm. "Launch out into the deep," he instructed, "and let down your nets for a catch." Imagine Peter's immediate thought. All night, he and his seasoned crew had fished in those very waters, trying every trick they knew. They were the experts. The fish weren't there. And now, this carpenter, this teacher, was telling him, a professional fisherman, to go back out into the deep, the very place they just painstakingly covered, and drop nets? It must have seemed utterly illogical, even foolish. "Master," Peter replied, a weariness perhaps detectable in his voice, "we have toiled all night and caught nothing. Nevertheless, at your word, I will let down the net." Think about that moment of decision. Peter had every reason to refuse. His experience screamed no. His fatigue begged him to rest. His pride as a fisherman might have bristled. Yet, despite all these powerful objections, he chose obedience. "At your word, I will let down the net." Think about that moment of decision. Peter had every reason to refuse. His experience screamed no. His fatigue begged him to rest. His pride as a fisherman might have bristled. Yet, despite all these powerful objections, he chose obedience. "At your word, I will let down the net." This was not blind faith in the methodology, but a humble submission to the authority of Christ's word. It was an act of profound trust, stepping beyond what made logical sense solely because Jesus had spoken. And what happened next transformed everything. Peter, perhaps with a sigh, steered the boat back out, away from the familiar shoreline, into the deeper water. They cast the net, watching it sink into the cool depths. And then it began. Almost immediately, the net began to strain. The pull was immense, unlike anything they had felt before. It wasn't just a few fish, it was a teeming, writhing mass. The net was so full, so heavy with fish, that it began to break. "Help!" Peter must have shouted across the water to James and John, his partners in the other boat. They came quickly, astonished at the sight. Together, they struggled to haul in the overwhelming catch. The sheer volume of fish was staggering. They filled Peter's boat, and then the other boat, so much so that both vessels began to sink under the weight. It was an abundance beyond measure, a blessing so immense it threatened to capsize their entire operation. For Peter, this was more than just a good catch. It was a revolution. He fell down at Jesus' knees, overwhelmed not just by the miracle, but by the undeniable presence of divine power. "Depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord," he cried. Peter, a man acutely aware of his own imperfections, saw in this miraculous display not just a powerful teacher, but the very Son of God. The overwhelming blessing had revealed his own unworthiness, yet in that moment, he truly saw Christ for who he was. Jesus' response was gentle, reassuring. "Do not be afraid. From now on, you will catch men." And just like that, Peter, James, and John left everything. Their overflowing nets, their sinking boats, their entire livelihood, and followed him. This incredible event in Luke 5 offers us profound lessons, echoing through the centuries. Firstly, it highlights the immense power of obedience to Christ's guidance. Peter's expertise, his experience, his logic all pointed to failure. But it was only when he surrendered his own understanding and acted on Jesus' seemingly illogical command that breakthrough occurred. Often, God's blessings are found not within the comfortable confines of our own wisdom, but in the adventurous leap of faith that obeys His word, even when we don't fully grasp the how or why. Secondly, this story beautifully illustrates that obedience to Christ brings abundant blessing. It wasn't just a few fish, it was an overwhelming, overflowing catch that broke nets and filled 2 boats to the point of sinking. God's blessings are often beyond our wildest expectations, far exceeding what we could achieve in our own strength or through our own efforts. They are a testament to His generous and limitless nature. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, the miraculous catch served as a powerful call to a higher purpose, to become fishers of men. Just as fish were drawn from the deep to the nets, so too would people be drawn to the good news of the kingdom through the efforts of these transformed disciples. This isn't about coercion or manipulation, but about sharing the life-changing truth of Christ in such a way that people are drawn by His love and light. It calls us to participate in God's redemptive plan, using our lives to draw others into relationship with Him. So, as we reflect on Peter's deep dive and the abundance that followed his obedience, consider this: where might Jesus be asking you to launch out into the deep? Is there an area in your life where your experience or logic tells you one thing, but His quiet whisper or clear word invites you to do something seemingly contrary to it? Perhaps it's a step of faith, a forgiveness you find hard to offer, a call to serve, or a truth to speak. Remember Peter, "Nevertheless, at your word." When we choose to obey, even in weariness or doubt, we open ourselves to the unimaginable abundance of God's blessing and to the profound purpose of becoming conduits of His love in the world. Thank you for joining me in this reflection. If this story resonated with you, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. How has obedience to Christ's guidance brought unexpected abundance into your life? We'd love to hear your story.